Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Many Ninjas, but I also happen to be Mr. A. This would be the third part of a small little video set I'm doing right now, where I'm taking this old animation that, to be quite frank, I kind of forgot that I made for a while, and misplaced, and now that I've had found the original work file, decided yes, it's about time that I actually go about and finish this animation. Just to recap another few things, this character goes by the name of Geno, or Genocyde, for the full name, and was actually designed by a gentleman who goes by the moniker of Dipod, as well as HighVault07, if you want to find his DeviantArt page, where he'll have his own the original animations and drawings which this character is based on. As for what I'm doing just now during the video here, I'm currently working on one of the transitioning frames in the swing here, and adding the hair and the top layer there, which for the most part is just generally one giant mass of hair that, due to the weight of the swing and the momentum, is shifting forward, and of course when I do the next couple of frames where it's transitioning back to state 0, we'll be moving back to a more idle, or kind of a, for lack of a better term, a more idle position behind her properly, rather than just kind of swinging and swaying about. Also, due to the decision to have it so that Geno will actually be taking a step forward rather than stepping backward into the original idle position, this means I have to actually adjust the next couple of frames in order to make it so that she'll actually be moving forward rather than moving backward. So that means I'm going to have to be moving the back leg a bit more into getting her the new spot that she was going to be standing in, which also means I have to adjust her general stance there, and in the last couple of transition frames, which would have originally been going to the backward animation, and transition so she's standing a little bit more upright in those frames, and I'll be needing to probably add a frame or two at the end in order to get it to so that she's slowly but surely turning back towards the general camera, which is what I'm kind of drawing right now. I'm drawing her upper torso turning back towards the viewer and shifting the legs around so that the leg that is in the background and behind will be moving back forward. Of course, to get this done, I have to pretty much kind of tweak some of the earlier frames, slowly but surely transitioning things over. And as you can see, kind of fudging things around back and forth to see, okay, where am I going to go with this now? This should be approximately this height, because she has to kind of reorientate herself or kind of start leaning back forward in the other animations. And in this case, I'm borrowing the original stand frame, which I'm going to be kind of putting into pieces in order to establish one of the frames just before the last transition point. Normally in animation that I'm more actively working on, since as I mentioned I kind of forgot I had this for a while and it got lost for some time, I would have already worked out the transition back to the initial stance back during the initial layout or blocking in phase, but since this particular work file got lost so long ago I didn't even have the chance to do that, I'm kind of having to make things up on the fly and figure out, okay, what was I originally planning before, and since I don't know that, how exactly can I make this work? Probably one of the best parts of dealing with animating Geno here is that, due to the fact that she's quite literally pliable as a design, part of the reason I've kind of got the working name of a rubby person that I constantly toss around on the DeviantArt gallery, it means that I can get away with fudging the anatomy and dealing with stretch and squash on quite a bit of her animations, which lets me get away with a few things where if it were drawn with just a regular flesh and blood person, it might stand out as a little more on a few cases, but here I could probably get away with it more. And of course it will let me have a little more fun with animating some attacks later on, such as you might have noticed on the swing back down, her arm literally kind of bends in a slight bit, but a kind of a unnatural motion that wouldn't have been possible with a regular physical body, not to mention the turning into an axe hand there, which for those that remember the LJN game and generally look at Marvel Comics, yes, I did kind of borrow the concept from Carnage from the Maximum Carnage game, as well as Separation Anxiety for those that played the sequel there. The whole axe thing is borrowed from there. and I imagine I'll probably be borrowing a few other odd elements from the symbiote characters as they go along. But for the most part, I'm trying to keep it so that there aren't an overt amount of references to previous elements and kind of outside games, although I'm going to be quite frank, there are some things that I've kind of sketched out on the side that will definitely be appearing there. I remember sketching out something about using Kerbo's shoe from the Super Mario Bros. 3 game that I know will definitely be making its way into the final product. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to apply that in there, but it's definitely going to fit in there somewhere. Plus, there are probably a few other odds and ends that I've kind of been collecting as kind of ideas obtained from Dipod's own character sketches, including some ones that were clearly meant as a joke. Because let's be honest, I'm not sure exactly how Kirby has anything to do with this character, but due to the sketches, I figured it's like, you know what, this is actually kind of an odd pairing, but it's funny, so let's see, maybe I can find a way to work that into the character proper somehow. So if there's a Kirby cameo or an odd cameo or two into the character that pops on later up, this isn't an official take on the character, this isn't a proper representation. Just kind of be having fun here, so a little bit of anything goes as long as it isn't going too far off the deep end, really. And that's probably what we're going with. I'm pretty sure I probably did say something along these lines in the previous video for this video set, but the reason I'm drawing all the stuff that is probably going to be covered up at here, like all the different kind of muscle groups and just general indentations in the back, is on the odd circumstance that I do need to draw something else that has a fairly similar pose or a similar view of the body. I can probably just go back to these animation files here and just copy over the parts of the body that I might need in order to just give myself a little quick head start for those later frames. Because I figure there's a good chance where I'll be needing to kind of show the lower and upper back at some other point, and if I have something that I can kind of just grab it, copy over in a hurry in order to get things in place, then it only makes my life a little easier later on. In fact, you can probably tell that that's exactly what I did for the swinging arm there. Most of the arms were actually the same really blocked in arm animation that I've just been slowly kind of turning around, rotating using the rotate tool and graphic scale in order to get it into the right position, and just generally cleaning up and adding the appropriate detail in order to get it to fit the frame and part of the animation that I want to get done here. So in this case, as the arm has been swinging back down, I've been erasing from the blade itself in order to get it back closer to the regular size hand, and just generally rotating things as I go along in order to bring it back into position. And since I have it on that separate layer there, I can move the whole arm to where I want the general arm, the shoulder position to be, and just work things as I go along there. As you can probably guess, I generally advocate, if you can find a way to reuse something in order to help yourself down the line, then yes, you probably should do it. Because let's be honest here, if you're gonna draw something and draw hundreds of frames for something, you want to do whatever you need to do in order to make your work process at least a little easier, because quite frankly, working on animations can be a really repetitive task. And just to give you see everything that's going on here, I've sped everything up here 1,000 times, literally 1,000 times the regular speed here, so even on this fairly small animation that's at this point maybe, I think, 11-12 frames total, I've been probably spending an exorbitant amount of time just getting this part right. So if you're spending X amount of time on just generally a fairly simple animation, or okay, maybe it's not exactly that simple, but fairly small animation in the larger scheme of things, realistically you kind of want to make yourself some shortcuts wherever you can in order to help yourself get along there. Otherwise you're going to be burning yourself out along halfway of the job. If you look for commercial examples, especially in the older CPS2 titles, like the Alpha games, or Street Fighter Zero, depending on what version what you want to call it there, you'll find a lot of characters that, when you actually look down at the animations on a frame-to-frame basis, actually reuse frames from other attacks to either begin or end seemingly new attacks, just to help transition things a bit more, but more importantly, they reuse those frames as a way to save memory, as well as keep it from the animators having to constantly redraw something generally over. You don't have to reinvent the wheel each and every time. If you have something that would generally fit the bill, like kind of a start of a jab frame, and like if you were going to go with any of the general martial artists like Ryu and Ken, you have a frame where they're just starting to extend their arm outward in order to do the jab motion. You can get away with using that first or second frame in any kind of a similar punching motion, or maybe retracting from another more complex punch motion, and as long as it looks appropriate, no one's the wiser, to be honest. For those more familiar with the Mugen community, I'd suggest probably just taking a look at some of Balthazar's animations for his Dragon Ball Z characters sometime around, when you get the chance. If you really take a good look at them, you'll realize a lot of them at least reference pre-existing animations done by Capcom a lot of the time, although I imagine Balth actually it draws everything up manually himself in the end. But you'll probably notice that a lot of the basic punches and kicks can probably have equivalents in assorted Street Fighter titles, as well as some versus games and such. So if you really do look around, I'd suggest, if you get a chance later, look up on Google Zweifus, Z-W-E-I. I can't remember, it's kind of the minus sign, I don't remember what the proper name is, but Z-W-E-I, like a middle line, I don't remember, like a minus thing, F-U-S-S. On Google, you'll be able to find a site which has a bunch of different Street Fighter 3 animations viewable online there, and if you kind of flicker through them, especially the Ryu and Ken ones, you'll notice, hey, these animations look really familiar. I know I've seen these in the Dragon Ball Z characters, and probably taken from a few other characters from that general area as well. Alright, getting back to the actual animation itself. As you can see, I'm kind of just messing around with the hair as it's starting to go back behind Geno here. And just kind of working out the general turn back here. The back of the hair, for the most part, well, the large clump that's kind of turned to the side will be on the top layer, while I'll be adding on the bottom here the area that is supposed to be behind her. And we'll pretty much transition to back being fully behind her by the next frame or so. But for the most part, this animation is fairly well underway, and now I'm just on the last frame, or the last frame that I'm currently showing in this video here that I'm fixing up. Adding in the hair in the back there, along with going back to the top layer to add will be a last little bit that is hanging on in front. I've now officially slowed the video back down to what's going to be real speed now, so you can get kind of a view from the corner there how this animation is currently looking at its proper speed, rather than the absolutely sped up as hell version that you've been seeing this whole time. And for the most part, what remains here is just adding in the last bit of the hair in the background, adding the bits that will be slowly popping back underneath there. Just kind of the tail end of the hair that would be visible between the legs at this point. And let's be honest, this animation is, at least at this stage, what I'm showing here is mostly done. I'm going to honestly have to step back and kind of adjust the feet, as I'm noticing now in the video there. I need to adjust the front foot in the first couple of frames to get it to properly line. It kind of sinks a bit before it goes back to its original height there again. And I'll probably be adding a transition frame or two around the end to help, but for the most part, that's all she wrote for this particular video series. Thanks for watching.